Kali. But no, they're saying, hey, the mid lane matchup was not a problem. We still have confidence that we can execute on this Rise.
Yeah, and honestly, this is a very, very interesting setup now, because difference from last draft to this draft is that the Aphelios isn't on the board. So you are going to go into a very much losing matchup here for the side of LNG's bot side if you decide to put that Zarya mid lane. They're going to hold that card close to their chest this time around. They're going to pick up the Nautilus and the Lee Sin, get themselves the jungle support combination. And anyone's legend, they're hovering towards the Lux. We have seen the Lux Caitlyn a lot, and it is going to be locked in. It does have its weaknesses, but if you can get through those first 1 or 2 levels, it is oppressive to say the least.
I gotta say though, I don't have a ton of confidence in anyone's legend to execute this, just from what we were hitting on about their team identity. Is that this team has looked best when they have Chocho on something that can engage, can play aggressive. Like, sure, you can engage on Lux, but you can't walk forward to like blind check into the enemy jungle or look for these skirmishes. If the enemy gets on objective first on Dragon, you also can't just blindly walk in and try to find those fights. You have to be way more careful. You need to find engage in another role or win out in bottom lane so hard you're the team getting on objectives first. So for Betty and Chocho, all the pressure is going to be in their hands.
Well, look at all these different bans coming out. Wouldn't be surprised to see another
Chocho's
ban towards
smiling
that
machine.
Yeah,
Chocho's
I was going to say, he's smiling at this. He kind of feels like they're focusing on Xiaohao, but he's the real carry of this team. He's on Lyric's super secret roster to be happening in the future.
I was going to say, it's going to happen one day. One day, that roster will happen. You know, maybe
will give you a buzz and go, here's unlimited budget, win PCS.
Maybe it does show some caster bias, but this is the LPL. We're biased every day of the week, all day. But no
like
Gwen.
the bias.
Me too. No Gwen this time, which I'm also biased against Gwen, as we have seen from many, many ridiculous games and clips of what she's able to do. So now for AL, with the fact that that's not on the table, just go for the jungler here. I really like this. I think you do just lock in the Xin Zhao. Gives you the early game oppression you could go for. No, anyone's legend. You had it right. You nailed it.
Well, they kind of nailed it. They're going to look to try and maybe... I do not like this purely because, again, it's giving a counter pick to which you already know what's going into the jungle. So you pick up the Camille. You're kind of saying you can go for this, but the Jace is available. The Jax has actually been banned, but the Jace was there.
Fiora's available.
Fiora, yeah, I was going to say Ala is definitely known for those things. I will say with the Jax ban, you could be baited into thinking about Ala, a very prominent Camille player, but just as prominent on the Fiora, and may look to try and go for this. And this becomes much more of a skill matchup and how you can make this one work for your team. And for LNG, they are going to lock and load it. Okay, we've got the Fiora here now for Ala and LNG.
Yeah, 100% win rate, 2 games, 9 KDA on the pick so far. Always been one of his best champions. Gonna take that knife fight in topside. Corki, though, a champion that is still S tier on this patch, hasn't been finding a ton of prio in this series so far. It will be picked up by Doinby. This will only be his 2nd game on the champion. You do have a bit of a 1-4 composition coming out from the side of LNG. You have some decent wave clearance, some decent range damage coming out in the mid lane. It's gonna be all about how Ala does up in that side.
See what the last pick is going to be here now for anyone's legend. They're letting Xiaohao. I was going to say Xin Zhao has gone very far down the priority. He's going to be locked up and loaded there. So honestly, really surprised to see him go this far down the draft, considering how much of a huge priority he has been for some teams. But nevertheless, Xiaohao will get his hands onto this pick, and that's going to be a fair bit of early game power for them as well. And look at all the single targets CC they have with the hook shot, the Rune Prison, and of course the Lux and Caitlyn combination in general. A lot of options to Xiaohao in this early game.
I do gotta say though, I'm still a bit puzzled of them going for Camille on 4 rather than the Xin Zhao. Like, obviously they were afraid of Ala getting his hands on the Camille like you were hitting on. For the fact that both Jax and Gwen are taken off the table, okay, he goes that, but I still feel like there were enough options and answers available, like ways to pivot your comp, that it could have worked. You know, even if you ended up with a reverse matchup or something like a Jace or so on and so forth, right? There was definitely ways to pivot there, but now for anyone's legend, like, you have some side lane strengths, but you're not going to win out against a Fiora later on. It's going to depend a lot on Forge. It's going to depend a lot on your bottom lane getting ahead. I feel like, once again, we've been talking so much about how many options your draft has. I definitely feel like LNG come out ahead in that regard.
We'll see how it all ends up panning out. You can see there, if you're wondering what these percentages are, it is the percentage of how solo queue on the Chinese servers tends to favor each of these matchups. You can see pretty much across the board, everyone on LNG winning. It's not how pro play works, but if that's how you want to take that one, you go ahead and use that information to your heart's desires. We are jumping onto the Rift for the third and final game of this series. Can LNG not only keep their undefeated streak, but can they keep the unofficial World Championship title? I've been told by our fantastic comrade Munchables that if anyone's Legend are able to win this series, they will take the unofficial World Championship title away from LNG. And if you're wondering how that one works, it basically means that whoever had the first World Championship and they lost and it changes hands throughout the world. It has remained in LPL for quite a long time. And LNG are looking to keep themselves with that prestigious award in their camp.
And I'm definitely favoring LNG coming into this game with the way drafts had panned out. I think for Tarzan, right, you have some options in bot lane when it comes to having, an aggressive tank jungler up against a enchanter or mage in Lux, because you typically do better in skirmishes from the amount of lockdown CC you provide. For anyone's Legend, like, you want to give your bottom lane cover so they can win hard in that 2v2. Then it just comes down to Betty and Chocho dodging out on the Nautilus hook. But you also want to be impacting that top lane because Fiora, I think, does better in the isolated 1v1 to where Camille has more options in terms of setting up ganks. So Xiaohao having two different side lanes that will need a bit of attention can be quite hard to juggle.
A little bit hard to juggle, as we can see now, already getting themselves the ward off in the tri-brush. So... And this is the thing, the big counter we have seen to this very, very prominent enchanter kind of long-range meta has been just an early gank on bot side. Don't let them get that early advantage on top of you. Don't let them just decide how you're going to take up this matchup. And with the way Tarzan is pathing, it does look like he's going to be down towards this bot side to maybe try and influence it.
Especially when you factor in, like, you don't even need to find kills. If you can take flashes off the Caitlyn Lux, it becomes so much harder for them to walk forward and hit turret without just endlessly calling Xiaohao to hover, pretty much the whole game. So this would be massive if we can see junglers impact that bottom side early on, especially for the side of LNG, because I think it should be harder for Xiaohao to find a gank just for the fact that Betty and Chocho will be constantly pushing them in.
Already we're seeing Xiaohao pushing in towards this bot side. He's already cleared his way. And again, we expect this from the Caitlyn Lux. Should be able to get some pretty decent advantage in against this 2v2. This area, again, we mentioned it many, many times, is very short range. So that's going to be double ignite here in the bot side. No exhaust to be seen from anyone. And actually, ZDC going with the flash over any kind of combat summoner, recognizing that sometimes you just got to get away from the Fiora. And we're already seeing Ala getting so much more damage down onto this Camille than in the first few levels than the Camille can really deal with.
Yeah, for ZDZ, a lot of his trade patterns just come from being able to hit with his W, maybe popping in for an aggressive grasp trade every now and then, but also having grasp to be able to match that, and then having the his own parry to be able to try to dodge out on the stun. Some ways to play around that is Camille, like, once you hit the level 6 point, you can, like, try and E in and then bait that into you ulting instead. So we'll see what ZDZ is going to be able to do later on with that. Doinby, though, keeping up this prio in the mid lane. For LNG, we kind of hit on, in terms of their composition, they are fine playing this early game slower than Anyone's Legend. Anyone's Legend definitely being the team that will be forced to make the aggressive moves.
Speaking of aggressive moves, Xiaohao maybe thinking about it, but the Valkyrie away from Doinby keeps him nice and safe. Is a fairly long cooldown. Now Tarzan may be looking for an answer in this bot side. So, push and pull of League of Legends. Speaking of pull, they do land a double root actually onto Lumbao, and this Lee Sin needs to be so careful.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. Tarzan was there, but just not able to find the right opportunity to join in.
He walked into a trap, a Sheen. He walked into a Caitlyn trap.
Oh, I didn't see that one there. That's so, so unfortunate. Now Xiaohao going to show that he is here and recognize it is a 3v3 in this bot side, but you've already lost your flash onto your Nautilus. You need to be so, so careful here as Lumbao, and I think it's just going to be a bit of posturing and then they can back away.
Yeah, I mean, if Tarzan doesn't hit the trap right, potentially gets in range to W and then try and land his Q onto Chocho, and you can try and pick up that kill, and it goes back to the philosophy we're talking about, that, having the Nautilus rather than the Mage on the opposite side, wanting to force more of those brawls, because that is where you do better. So nice to see LNG, like, conscious of what they need to be doing and Nothing coming of it for either side, I think, is fine. Is Forge just going to get a bit of vision down on this top side right now?
Yeah, spots out Tarzan as well, and should be able to take away the scuttle, or at least secure it there for his team. So good movement here from anyone's lane. We've seen this from Forge a couple of times in this series already, where he gets himself out onto the map. He looks to try and make things work for his team, and even just gaining that little bit of information gives on the safety to Betty in that bot side, saying, look, you can play aggressively. We can just keep pushing forward with this.
Ooh, and both supports being up towards the top side as well. Surprised we aren't going to see more action come out from it, is both AD carries just being left by themselves. And, you know, something I want to point out that I didn't realize until the last fight is Light getting the full charge of his auto onto Betty. Man, that is some nice damage. I am so happy you changed your name just to Ashin. It's like, cool.
Why?
I already called you Ashin anyway. Now I don't have to remember, like, wait, what's his name again? Is it Penguin? Is it BP Cast? Who is this guy?
I've changed it so many times, man. Like, I'm just trying to find the right one. And you know what? The right one was just staring me in the face the whole time.
It was just following the lead of Clement K Bummer 2002.
Yeah, I had to follow the, you know, there has to be one single named caster in the LPL at all times. That's what I've decided, so I just, you know, I follow in the great ways of Clement Chu. Clement, don't call me Clement Chu, as now we see Lumao getting stunned up here, gonna get flashed on. They're gonna have the Realm Orb coming in as well, just for extra insurance, but that is a first blood to anyone's legend, and this is why you can pick the Caitlyn looks. When you don't get the pressure you need as LNG, it is a very, very hard lane to deal with.
Yeah, and this was also just the benefit of what we saw on the top side before, right, which allowed for Light to be able to push out. Anyone's legend realized that of like, hey, like our wave's bouncing back into them. Let's bring our jungler down. This will be one of our only opportunities to find a gank. They're going to translate this into a dragon. Was a bit of a waste on the Realm Warp, but like you said, just bringing a bit of a moral encouragement from the mid lane. He did have no mana though, so if anything did break out, I don't know how much.
Yeah, he already used it all to get into this fight, but which he didn't even do anything, so.
And like we said, right, nothing too spectacular in terms of the play itself. A lot of it does come down to recognizing the top side support roams that set up for this gank in bot side. Now we're going to get to a point where Forge will be able to trade quite aggressively with these combos, and at a point where he pretty much just could clear the wave on command.
Yeah, and again, this is just good play here from anyone's legend. This is very similar to what we saw in Game 1. They get the early advantage in bot side, they get the first dragon, and they are just keeping Tarzan and Doomby to a very muted state. It isn't really working out the way we saw in Game 2, where they were getting out onto the map. They were making plays around the place, and that's the difference in LNG, you know, between the two series. We need to see them coming out a little bit more aggressively. I want to see them do something more with this Lee Sin Corki combination that has just so much early game power.
I do gotta say though, we do have Ala up in the top side, just absolutely smashing CDZ right now. Looks like there might be, okay, so it is, you know, about a wave and some odd minions that are crashing the tower, but still, like I said, about 20 minions up for the side of Ala, sitting 400, almost 500 gold up, will secure the side of LNG. A Rift Herald, anyone's legend looking for the cross map, aggressively walking into Tarzan's jungle, steal away a red buff, get some vision down. If Caitlyn pushes in this wave, you could even just keep trying to zone Light off of some CS.
Well, Doomby be stunned up just a little bit of a trade of a health bar, but Lumao is here. Chocho there as well, just to be sure, but maybe they're going to try and go for something. Yeah, Corki is there, but he's separated just a little bit, and now they're going to jump straight onto Lumao. There's the package, but it's only on the one. They can crescent guard him over the wall, and he has to flash. It was all a beautiful bait. Now Chocho might be in a little bit of trouble, but with the rest of his team nearby, they don't have to worry about that. So, a package very much used offensively and not able to get much impact.
And even forced to flash after that. I was really surprised Doinby opted into taking that one. And again, had he been able to actually package straight across the wall, he would have been completely fine. So just a bit short on that one. We're going to come back, though, to the amount of punishment that AL's bot lane has been putting up. They are one of the clear win conditions for the sides of anyone's legend coming into today's series, especially when you look at how the drafts panned out in this game. Nice to see them delivering. We haven't seen Tarzan able to find any of those impactful ganks set up by Lumao that we've been looking for.
He is feeling very confident in this top side, kind of getting better trades here, the double Sheen combination. I will say it is a bit of a skill matchup when we get to the ultimates, as you can see there, using the riposte. We're going to see the Exec ultimatum come in straight away. Can they get themselves down? The grand challenge has been set. Both top laners just lose their ultimates and they back away. Forge, though, with the Realm Warp, maybe feeling like he can go for something here, is going to be able to get himself right on top of Ala, who flashes over Forge again with the roams. As we look towards this bot side, it's a 3v2. Never mind, it's going to be completely dead there as Lumel has to flash away. They do get the electric stirs as Tarzan now forced to do it as well. Xiaohao in a lot of trouble. No flash for him. It's a double kill for Tarzan. They will miss the hook as Lumel getting taken so low. There's 3 incredibly low health bars, but Betty knows it's just not worth the risk. Ends up being 2 quick kills back to LNG.
It's so great to see LNG finally capitalize on the bottom lane where they have the superior skirmishing, pick up a bunch of kills in return. Looks like they might even just be able to get this turret outright. Even Doinby was pushing in mid. Looks like he did deny away from Forge. So a lot of, you know, big and small victories around the map for LNG, despite the fact that they did lose the flash on their Fiora.
Lose the flash, but the game's so much more. That's a lot of gold in the back pocket of Light. Gets them right back ahead of this matchup. But let's have a look at the replay here, because again, it starts off with a great hook, and they just burst down the looks. When you get caught on this champion, you are just going to die.
Yeah, and we see the follow-up coming out from Xiaohao, but he starts to get kited out by the Zeri. They see an opportunity to turn with the Sonic Wave connecting, and they do find it. Tarzan quickly flashing away just any, you know, maybe if a Q or something would have come out from Betty there, wanting to get to his allies and get away as quickly as possible. But Dragon is coming up in 40 seconds. So anyone's legend in game 1 were able to successfully stack dragons from early on, which put LNG in a very tough position of having to contest for soul, you know, in the early 20-minute mark. So early 20s.
The early 20s, the best time of your life, apparently, as see a lot of pressure in this bot side. Betty still being a Caitlyn, still getting a lot of that damage down as we see the Triforce finished up there for Light. So pick that one up nice and early for himself. Xiaohao, though, looking to see if he can maybe make something work here. Tarzan is in the vicinity, but there is no ultimate available for him. He's going to have to be very, very careful. Xiaohao will have to use the Crescent Guard defensively. Gets knocked up by the ult from the Nautilus as Tarzan moves forward. Doonby is now here, but important to recognize Doonby does not have his package right now. There is TPs available for both Ala and ZDZ, but neither can get themselves onto a ward as we are pre-14 minutes. So this is going to be a 4v4, but actually you can see there, they're actually just going to try and get the waves in order, try and get mid lane pressure and secede a little bit of the pressure they just gained for themselves.
Yeah, I think the pivot by AO is nice, right? Go back to mid, push in that wave. It gives you easy access point to River.
They missed the ultimate, though. It does not matter. Doomby is dead. The double light binding was huge, but they traded back for your jungler, and that's the important kill. They're not going to be able to get it. Light still kiting over this wall. Not going to be able to use himself. Another double light binding gets him right on top as Tarzan jumps straight in. Forge has to be the carry here as Chocho goes golden. He needs to turn back onto Light, who flashes away. It's a double kill for Light on the Zeri. He knows he needs to be so careful with how he does it, and Nautilus finishes it off. It's 3 kills over to LNG. The Dragon is still alive, but Light is popping off.
Yeah, Light popping off. Sad for Forge. He was sidestepping quite nicely in that last skirmish, but Light left untouched, able to get the damage off, aggressively going over the wall once he does smell blood. Looks like we're going to get a replay right away of this. Like you said, double light binding does hit. We see the ultimate come out. Clips Corky, doesn't get any damage onto Tarzan, but they trade mid for jungle right away. Still, the light being left untouched has a ton of damage to put out with these W's over the wall. Gets binded out again, but Tarzan jumping in. And the fact that Chocho, right, you are a mage, so you throw out your combo, you really have nothing left to give. Pretty much turn that into a 1v2 in favor of LNG. And then here, Forge trying to sidestep his best, but still, you have a Nautilus right on top of you. You aren't going anywhere, buddy.
I will say, though, anyone's legend come back out onto the Rift and they get themselves a Dragon. They are about 3,000 gold behind, but they do have the first 2, so it should give them a little bit of extra time. Coming back up into this top side, ZDZ and Ala have been very much on an island. It's a 20 CS lead still and about 3 plates, so lots of advantages here for the Fiora, who has got the Divine Sunderer already, versus ZDC, who's just dealing with a little bit of a second-hand shot.
Yeah, is still getting roughed up. We're seeing Xiaohao now having to commit resources to that top side. If you're going to try and find a gank, and it comes back to what we hit on earlier, right? Where you have this bottom lane that you kind of need to take care of because of how fragile they are. But you have this top lane matchup that wants to look to skirmish if he can get a jungler involved, so the Camille can find the advantage.
Look at how confident Allah is right now. He's just walking forward, knowing that if he hits these key marks on top of the Camille, he can just get the pressure he needs, and that forces the Camille out. ZDT just teleported. ZDT is going to lose his turret, and they're going to lose the Rift Herald as well. LNG are suffocating Anyone's Legend out of here.
And we've seen certain teams prefer the gold trades, or at least come out ahead in terms of gold trades, rather than the amount of dragon stacking we've seen early on in the LPL. Weibo is a great example of it, where they've really not cared too much about early dragons and preferred going for these herald trades. And looks like they're going to look to put some pressure down on this mid lane turret. They have pretty decent siege coming out with the Corki. And you don't have a ton of like easily accessible wave clear on the side of Anyone's Legend. Caitlyn, like, you're all right. Ryze as well, you're all right, but you're very low range. And yeah, they drop the Herald to get the turret. They should even potentially be able to get a second charge. Looks like they're going to escort the Herald up to be able to secure that one.
Now LNG pretty confident in themselves. I say that Xiao Hao goes straight in, using the Crescent Guard to try and keep himself alive. Has no real mana to follow up. And Lumao using his ultimate, but Betty not quite done with this one yet. Dunby forced the Valkyrie away. Light almost gets taken down, but these low health bars do not equal kills. That means that LNG will get themselves out. I feel like once the Fiora lands in here, you have to respect it. You have to back away. If this Fiora gets even 1 or 2 kills, this could be game over already.
And I feel like what we just saw on our screens goes back to how you're hitting on AL's identity in terms of, like, this is a team that likes to fight. This is a team that likes to look for the engage, as we saw there, which is why typically they have been more successful when they have more tanks in their composition. When Chocho's on the tank, they look good when ZDZ was playing the role of the Orns in the sets. They go in for it there, but they don't have a great way of sticking on top of you. Xiao tries, gets chunked out easily, you're getting kited out. Sure, ZDZ can try and connect the Hextech ultimatum, but you are also very squishy. You will get bursted out, and I think it leaves Anyone's Legend in a bit of a weird place where it's like, you are pretty much solely playing for soul at this point, which means you're going to have to guarantee yourself either mid or bot lane prio to be able to enter in the river and get your vision down.
Solely soul. Interesting, the English language, how we just come up with random ways of making words, you know, they're completely different, sound the exact same thing, like there, and there. So we come back in now, Anyone's Legend is trying to get priority around this mid lane. Anyone Forge off of Anyone's Legend is just being a bit more aggressive, and it does feel like he is going to be the reason. He's going to be the one who has to deal with Ada in the side lane. It feels like right now ZDZ just is never really going to be able to go 1v1 against this Fiora, but the extra wave clear you get with someone like the Ryze is going to be enough for you to be able to kind of go for it, as we can see now. 3v3 in the mid lane, Forge trading out in the bot side, and this is good for Anyone's Legend. They're recognizing they have an opportunity here where there was some resets coming in. They can get some pressure and get some standing gold for themselves.
And yeah, I love the amount of pressure that LNG just continue to put up. But TPs are
They're
coming
going to
out.
go for it. They're going to go for it. They're going to try and make this one work. Lumao already very, very low. Forge is here. They got ZDZ coming in as well. There's going to be the ultimate coming out on top of Allah. He already used himself the parlay. Is he going to go down? Yes, he is. There's the Caitlyn with the first kill, but you've lost your jungler. You've gained a support. Anyone's Legend trying to fight this one out, but look at Light. He's still not done with this. Tarzan goes in, lands the Q. Not quite sure how that one happened. He flashes in, but he's not quite able to get the kick. And now the jungler is dead. The flash forward from the Camille, trying to see if he can take down Light, as Light still going forward, still going aggressive.
Oh no!
Was a hero, but he didn't need to be. He ends up falling down. It's a 2-for-4 trade in favor of Anyone's Legend, and that was scrappy.
Yeah, poor Doidby tanking. The ace in the hole coming out from Betty, not accounting for that last turret shot that he was tanking, ends up going down. That was scrappy. I can't wait for the replay. What we're going to see here, right? AL trying to find the opportunity. They're already bringing in their double TPs. I think this is where it starts to go wrong for LNG because of where the TP is. Allah instantly comes in on the trap. He is chunked quite low. It's very easy to finish him off, to find the first kill on the side of Anyone's Legend. Opens up room for Betty to put off all this damage from a range. And then Tarzan tries to find the hero play, which we don't get to see. It gets flashed and he dies. There you go.
Doobie has the package. He waited to try and go for this very moment here. So they're going to try and jump with the Lumao, who goes golden. Xiao Hao getting caught out a little bit. There's a fantastic package to separate the rest of Anyone's Legend. And now they can really start to shred through these health bars. Light picks up 2. Doonby as well. Double, Boil and Trouble. LNG get the ace, they get the dragon, they're probably going to be able to turn around and get themselves a Baron. It's actually not up for another 30 seconds, so they can't even take it yet.
And this is what happens when you aren't put under pressure, right? You have TPs come in at weird angles that gives AL the setup. You have things like the package available. LNG should just be able to decimate AL in terms of the 5v5 if they can find the engage. No Baron, but they at least will be able to get themselves some gold. They're not only taking this trip, you can see Ala is taking away camps on the top side as well.
And again, we're seeing the priority that LNG have put onto the Zeri is just, it's so damn good right now. It's just massive, and just the amount of time that Lumao can create, the amount of space, and then you just can't fight around a package like that. You're just not going to have a good time.
No, and you see here, it instantly turns into a 4v3 on this left side because of what the package was able to do. I love the way that all members just know to collapse on this side. Duenby is fine, zoning off the other two members, pretty much killing one outright with his package anyway. Anyone's Legend, though, still putting up aggressive moves by walking into the enemy jungle together. CDZ does not have TP, so they need to be careful because Ala not showing in that bottom half of the map. LNG do have 5 men committed to topside for now. Ala is finally recalling, though.
Is finally going to get himself back onto the bot side of the map. Had no mana. Did lose the Gromp fight, if we can call it that, around the top side of his own jungle. But it's already a 7.5, nearly 8,000 gold lead. It is a huge mountain for anyone's Legend to climb. And they've only just picked up their second items there onto the Rise and the Caitlyn, the Fimbulwinter, and the Collector, respectfully. But it just feels like they're on a losing battle already. It just feels like they can't really find what they need because there's still not even a full item onto this Lux. The Lux is just trying to build up the Everfrost to try and maybe get a little bit of extra CC, but Light and Lumao just not afraid. They just keep pushing forward.
And I like that LNG have kind of stayed as a unit this whole time, right? Almost every time our screen pans to LNG, they're walking as a 4-man unit to find these picks, to find the fights. We hit on, they're playing a 1-4 composition, Ala fine down there in the bottom side. Both TPs for top laners will be coming up now, so they can answer any aggression, which we are seeing.
I mean, they're looking for it, but again, look, anyone's Legend maybe could have found an opportunity there. They had got the numbers there just very quickly, but they didn't have visions. They had to check it. They had to try and make sure that they weren't walking straight into a trap. And triple Tiamat across the board for LNG. They're going to have so much wave pressure.
You know, Ashin, what this reminds me of, and like how you know, you said like the Gromp fight, and you're like, is it really a fight or this? No. This actually is different because what this is a stare down. What it reminds me is that, did you know like having competitive stare-offs is actually a thing? When I was in Thailand,
really?
I went to a place where you actually would sit at the table and they would, you know, they had like little cash prize and you would see if you can outstare the guy on the other side.
I mean, okay, we got a bit of time before everything comes in. The Titanic Hydra has been finished up as we have, as I mentioned, the triple Tiamat build here for all the main carries of LNG. But talk to me, is it literally just a staring competition? Like, or is there a difference to a stare down?
No. It is actually just a staring contest. It was in like a little cool, sketchy alleyway that, you know, had all the little stalls and trinkets. And, you know, I was tempted to go do it, but some of those like 80-year-old, you know, like battle-tested veterans in Thailand, I'm like, I'm not beating these guys.
I mean, I would be more worried that while you're literally adamantly staring into one particular place, you're probably going to get robbed. We say it was a shady little area.
I'm just saying though, Bangkok, great city.
Oh, beautiful city. I'm just saying, like, and that's every city, man. I don't care if it was in Dublin, Ireland. I still would be worried.
Okay, yeah. I thought you were saying every city's a great city. I was going to be like,
no. I'm saying
quite a few cities in America.
I would be robbed.
Don't know if I'd agree.
Every single city in the world, I'm perpetually afraid that I'm probably going to be robbed. As speaking of being robbed, anyone's Legend being robbed of any and all vision on this top side of the map. They've got the full split push pressure now in the bot lane. It's actually the crown of the Shattered Queen here for Chocho, recognizing that he needs to survive. He needs to try and not die. That's the big thing for him right now. Is anyone's Legend as a 4-man will try and defend this tier 2 in top side. Very difficult against the Corki over the side. You can see those rockets really starting to do damage. Flash forward. They're trying to get down on top of this damage, but they're just not able to do it. Look how just tanky Light is. This Bruiser Zeri build is just too good.
Yeah, still though, luckily for anyone's Legend, right? They're not losing out in terms of this push. The real place they're losing out, thank you observers, is the fact that Ala is single-handedly pressuring both mid and bot. Look, he'd already pushed in bot wave, that's hitting turret. Now he's pushing in mid, and man, the damage from Duenby is finally starting to stick. To go back on the point of the Mythic, the Crown of the Shattered Queen, I'm a little bit surprised of Chocho wanting to commit for this one, because it's like, okay, Duanbe's very easily going to be able to proc the shield on that, just with a rocket, and it's like, if anyone else gets on top of you in terms of if, like, Lumao's able to connect and engage, you're probably just dead regardless. So, we'll see. For anyone's Legend, they have been able to keep it, I won't say close, because they are quite a bit of gold behind.
That would be a little bit of an egregious statement, in my opinion.
No, let's be real. That would be a lie. That would be a straight up lie.
You're lying to our beautiful audience.
Advantage of the trust between me and the people. The best trust there is.
The connection you've built with the audience, with your words and the vocabulary you have chosen throughout this cast.
Yes. And I'm gonna pick more vocabulary right now and say, you know, anyone's Legend. We asked, do they have a chance? They did have a chance. They have played, again, overall, I'd say surprisingly well this series. Took a game off LNG in game 1. This game, again, they are 9K gold behind, but they were able to get the first 2 dragons. They have been able to keep the kills competitive at least. It does feel like we're finally at the point where LNG's composition does outpace them a little bit. Feels like they need to find some sort of pick. They have been looking for it, right? Chocho has been flashing aggressively, looking for those bindings.
I've been looking for the bindings, but the the Baron has been started. You've no vision here at all. You've plenty of TP wards here for the Fiora to get in onto the back side. You do have the package available for Duanbe as well, and already the poke coming in, doing a fair bit of damage. Ala now going to play 1v5. They got down the Duanbe package, and everyone kind of backs away from the Baron just for a second, so not really ideal here for the side of LNG. They will stop doing the Baron. Anyone's Legend, that's a win.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised LNG were so fast to like pull the trigger in terms of like the package and just being willing to get off that objective. They do have to worry about Caitlyn Lux coming over the wall. One of the benefits of being red side and having, you know, long range champions still being able to dish out that damage. But it's kind of funny that it feels like the highest amount of stress for the side of AL is this Fiora, and it's I don't want to say uninteractive, right? Because you're pushing out waves, you're putting down the pressure, but not seeing too much skirmishing coming from it, but ZDZ is constantly having to answer multiple waves, which is allowing for the 4-man core of LNG to push in aggressively. It's quite hard to beat the turtling that anyone's Legend has been able to put up, but LNG has been choking them out beautifully in terms of their jungle camps.
I mean, yes, it is great for ZDZ in the sense that he's getting a lot of time in solo lanes. He's all the way up to level 15 now, but he's 70 CS down. It's just getting bigger and bigger because Fiora just farms better than you. We'll see the TP coming in here from Duanbe. He's already spotted out on a ward, so they know exactly where he is. Tarzan and Lumao playing very, very well to go on top of this. As I say that, Lumao gets caught out just a little bit, forced to flash away. Haven't committed the TP here from Ala just yet, and he's already onto the inhibitor turrets. You have to make a choice here now, Anyone's Legend. You have to commit somewhere, otherwise you're going to lose the base.
Yeah, Ala is able to get it. They are able to get scot-free. He might even just commit to this kill. The other members are on Baron.
They're on Baron, but
they peeled off Baron. Why'd they peel off Baron?
They peeled off Baron. What is happening, LNG? You need to make a decision. Now they go back towards it, but they've lost their split push, and they have a TP from 2 solo laners to deal with as well. It's still a hell of a lot of damage there from Duanbe, but LNG just a little bit odd on the trigger. Why didn't they go for it?
It's like not even that just going for Baron in that situation necessarily the right call, but it's like if you're gonna have Ala try and force in the 1v1, your other forces need to try and be putting pressure on some other side of the map, right? Whether that's putting pressure on top turret, taking Baron, taking drone camp, something. To start Baron, quickly peel off and realize they're gonna try and save him, and he was obviously way too far to be saved. It was a done deal for Ala.
Yeah, you didn't have a teleport, you didn't have a package. Like, how are you going to save him is my question. You don't have a Thresh? Like, what was the plan there as we look at the replay here? Let's keep an eye on the minimap because you can see they run towards it and then they just kind of disengage. It's so disconnected.
Yeah, and again, you could also fault Ala for this. Like, for LNG, you don't need to be looking to flip Baron right now, so he could just realistically back off, reset. I'm sure he had more gold for items, look to push a different wave, but the problem is not the play itself. The problem is like, hey, you know, our 2 parts need to be working in unison to be putting up pressure at the same time to make anyone's Legends have to make hard choices.
That's the thing. That play in topside isn't a bad play it is in isolation, but when you combo it, like you said, with taking the Baron, with pushing for that kind of thing. Oh, they're going for a TP. It's a deep TP. They're going to try and make this one work. They're going to try and find people out. It's currently a 5v4, and they're going to have the Fiora coming in very, very shortly. They know that the Camille is off on the backside. This is an opportunity here for anyone's legend. They try to get on the Tarzan, but he doesn't land the hook shot. Now ZDZ is caught out of position. He will not get hit by anything. He has just got so much skill to just dodge all of these skill shots, and they find Doinby, and they kill Doinby. ZDZ is hasking himself right out of there, though, as you can see Light pushing forward, and the Fiora trades it back. It's a trade of mid laners now for both these teams, but Light is not done. Ala's pushing forward, double kill for the Fiora. Needs to be a bit careful underneath the tower as the Caitlyn is still alive and well, but it's still, despite the opportunistic kill from anyone's legend, a win for LNG, and they'll crack open the base and top side.
Yeah, and LNG will be able to get inhibitor off this. Another downfall of anyone's legend not having a tank. You can't like posture and try and threaten like, hey, you can't dive us. We're too strong, we have too much lockdown. No, your 3 squishy members left up. They have to give over the turret, they have to give over the inhibitor. Now for LNG, they're gonna have some real pressure to work with in unison with Ala's split pushing. He'll be able to push whether it's in mid or in bot. You have those super minions to rely on the top side. There's more action.
Ala goes in, he finds Betty, and he's still not going down. They will try and kill him off, but he just cannot die right now. He refuses to go down, and that's going to be 3 more kills for the side of LNG. They might look just to end the game right here, right now.
Yeah, they can just go for the push. We have 30 and 40-second death timers on the side of AL. Lumau's aggressively walking forward.
They're looking for it. They'll get themselves all inhibitor turrets. They'll get themselves a second inhibitor. They have a minion wave, and it's only the Rise and the Lux. This is not a damage Rise. You're going to be basically waiting on Chocho to try and clear out these minions. Here we go with the package. They jump straight in, and Forge is dead. Chocho follows him swiftly out to the Shadow Realm, and LNG will retain their undefeated streak in series and go to 7-0 at the top of the standings.
LNG once again feel the pressure put on them by an enemy team. They are not infallible by any means, but at the end of the day, they are still the kings of the LPL right now. We saw great Zeri performances come out by both Light and Doinby. The classic Ala Fiora in this third game. And yeah, I feel like we saw some pretty good map play from LNG throughout the series, despite the fact of us like harping on that last play. They were constantly playing as a unit, pressuring into enemy jungle. A lot of times, especially in game 2, whether it was like pressuring in the 1v1 at the same time. And yeah, it was nice to see LNG. It's good to see, even in game 1, where it felt like their draft was harder to execute, that they come out with like different colors and different showings in terms of how to play the game. And it's just a team that I'm going to be very excited to see them when they do play against more of the teams that are at the top of the standings.
Slightly more established teams there. They will also retain the unofficial World Championship belt as they are able to come out with a win. But again, good moves here from LNG. They go up to 7-0. We look at some of the big games they got coming up right now. This weekend they play against RNG, then they play against Weibo and V5. So 3 massive games back to back. If they can come out of that and they come out 10-0, this team could look legit to me.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, they already look legit in terms of being a top team, right? It's just like getting to that next level of I guess there's like
contender.
There's like that level we have every split, right? There's like top esports JDG 2020, the like RNG, EDG, FPX of last year. There's like a certain point you get to where you're like, okay, like you view this team differently. I don't think we have any team in the LPL right now who I think like that. So LNG's not, alone in that regard. But LNG today looked great. They were able to bounce back, which I think is a very hard skill to train, as we were talking about earlier, of it being better to face some adversity in the regular season. Got absolutely clapped in game 1. If you missed out, anyone's legend did stomp them. Came back in game 2, stomped them, and we just saw game 3. Nice job utilizing this 1-4 composition. And we've already hit on some of the key members, Doinby, Tarzan, and Ala. I also want to say, even though I feel like Lumau uses his Nautilus ultimate quite liberally, it is nice to see Lumau not getting caught out so consistently like he was earlier on in the split.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Again, when we look at LNG, we had a lot of questions. We had a lot of issues with certain things, especially when we come into, certain individual players. But slowly but surely, like we hit on at the top of the day, that they are getting better. They are picking up their mistakes and rectifying them. They are not getting caught out. They are taking the losses, taking them on the chin and saying, okay, cool. How do we make this better? How do we not end up in this situation again? And again, we saw it with their draft. We saw it with their play today. It did feel like after their first loss, they were like, okay, we cannot be in this situation again. We need to make sure that we're either prioritizing certain other lanes or we're getting slightly better matchups or compositions that can go into what anyone's legend would go for. So very excited to see what this team can do. Very much a dominant win for them in the final 2 games, apart from the first one where they got absolutely clapped. But again, like you mentioned during the cast, you are better to take the losses now during the series, during the regular season, than at the playoffs.
Yeah, and I like that we're getting to see the damage graph here. Allah seriously put in so much work in this game. Despite the fact that Light was the one getting fed primarily throughout the game, right? We saw him big in the early Dragon skirmish and things along those lines. It really felt like this Fiora was the thorn in anyone's legend side. The fact that he was just bouncing between mid and bot, pushing out both waves, making ZDZ respond, while the other 4 members are able to siege aggressive in that top side was phenomenal to watch. And yeah, I don't think this is a team you can give Zeri to. This is officially the first team that has flexed it. This is a team that it must be banned from. And now for LNG, I mean, right, they are the top dog. They are the team to beat in the LPL. Doinby said in his interview he's only coming for a championship, and LNG are at least staying true.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's coming in for a championship, and right now he is staying as straight as an arrow towards his goal. 7-0, yet to drop a series, and it is, when we see them now this weekend, will be a massive test. RNG just coming off of a loss against V5. I think a lot of people were very surprised with how dominant V5 looked in that series, and for RNG, that's also an opportunity for them to kind of bounce back a little bit, take down the undefeated team, and really put themselves back up towards the top 2, if you will, of the league. So wait to see what that one. And for anyone's legend, of course, it is a bit of a bittersweet moment. They did lose. It does suck, but you were competitive, which for a team towards the bottom end of the standings, that's really positive for them.
Yeah, I mean, right? Anyone's legend still with this loss are sitting in 11th. Like, okay, you lost to LNG. LNG are undefeated. You brought them to 3 games. When they lost to RNG way back in week 2, they brought them to 3 games. I think there's a lot of interest in anyone's legend. Anyone's legend right now are a team who have shown they could lose to anyone. They are the only loss to TT, or they could be competitive against the top teams and have a strong showing. So for anyone's legend, I still think we're going to be looking at their identity, having Chocho on these aggressive tank supports that can set up the fights. I really do feel like he is the leader of this team. And then as long as like Xiaohao and Betty, I feel like are playing on point, there will always be a win condition where Forge and ZDZ to me serve a bit more as role players, but Forge has looked so much better this split than he has previously. Forge before, we'll just be right. Like Forge before just was not it. He was pretty much getting styled on in lane every game. Now, I mean, Forge came out. He had pressure in that first game. Forge has come out on his champions like the Akalis and the Blancs and really made it hard for them to play the game in team fight. So I think the coolest part about this Anyone's Legend roster is that there's no like, okay, well, this guy is this player who literally gets just gapped in lane every game. Like they can't win. It's like, no, you have a bunch of players who can hold their own. Now it's about bringing the pieces together.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is that, again, like positives, small little things that we can come back and say, look, they were able to absolutely dominate in game 1. They were competitive in game 3. It's just a bit, again, you look at the caliber of players that you have on LNG, it isn't really that surprising that they would be able to dish out this style of a composition against them and be able to completely execute on it. But again, lots of games left to play in the season. And of course, I will say you are now 3-6, like I mentioned, 9 games down, 7 more to go. So you're past the halfway point here for Anyone's Legend. I will say if you want to try and get top 10, you need to start picking up those wins. That's the big thing now, I think, for Anyone's Legends and Anyone's Legends fans really around the world. But moreover, LNG coming in, obviously keeping their win streak alive. And before we get the official MVP, who was your MVP of that game?
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is.
I think I'd go with Allah, but it could be Light. Like, I feel like Allah had more impact in the mid and late game in terms of the pressure he's putting on the map. But the fact that Light Sure, they were losing in the 2v2 as they should against Caitlyn and Lux, and like they were losing turret plates. He still wasn't falling behind, wasn't dying to any dives or ganks, was coming out ahead in skirmishes. So I think there's a fair argument to be made for both of them. And yeah, just give 2 MVPs. There you go.
You know what? Why not? Let's just give 2 MVP. We don't decide, by the way. We have absolutely zero input into who. We're not like the LCK where the color caster gets it, but it is Light who picks it up 8-0-0 and with an 80% KDA. There was just some nice synchronized numbers.
Yeah, I mean, and Deathless again, just Deathless MVP every game. If you want to pick up an MVP, just don't die. It's like the whoever we saw in the first interview of like, yeah, just be good. Just don't make mistakes. Light was not making mistakes in this game. Did come out, have a solid showing. Like we said, didn't fall behind early game in terms of the 2-2. They did work quite well with Tarzan when they were finally able to start setting up ganks. And then in skirmishes is where he really came online, and it was this one specifically where this man just popped off.
He really did. And again, look at the positioning. This feels like a champion that can just, if you get that little bit of extra space, can make the world of difference. And having the extra little bit of mobility is so, so huge. It will be slightly nerfed on 12.3 and even again on 12.4. So we'll see how teams end up utilizing the new Zeri coming into the next split, or next few patches. We did hear from Doomby, we're not going to be on to 12.3 or 12.4 until March. So we still have a couple more games to go in the 12.2 meta, and we're a little bit behind the rest of the major regions. But it's still fun to see how everything is developing and how teams are adapting to this new meta.
Yeah, and for anyone out there, because we're in Suzhou, we sadly don't have an interview for you. We just have ourselves. So, Sheen, kick us to break.
All right, I'll take it. I was going to let you do it, but you could send it to me then. We're going to send it, and we're going to send you guys to a break. When we return, we'll have our second series of the day, IG versus BLG.
When two legends clash, the world baits its breath. For FPX, the disappointment of 2021 caused a groundbreaking shakeup, a deep wound. Although the pieces may be rekindled and different, LWX still lies at its fiery heart. As the newfound leader of this team, he must hold fast to the past glories and reawaken the Phoenix.
Really, as the flight comes through with the box down as well, but FPX are winning the fight. That's the TP advantage. At work, 2 members already dead. Way under turret, Sonic Wave with a huge kick not even needed. And Xiao Lao Wu smashes down onto the bottom lane for FPX to blast them clean.
While old friends departed one by one, FPX were also reinvigorated with new blood of their own. One of the most renowned junglers in the world, Clid, has decided to join the Phoenix. Now going up against the defending world champion in JJ, it will truly be a show of might.
This is the flank with a Sonic Wave kick over the wall. FPX jump on in. Clid on Lee Sin, man. That's what you expect.
Comparatively, EDG are on the highest horse of them all. They not only won the World Championship, but have not missed a beat going into the new season. They have smashed through their opponents one by one and only left heartbreak in their wake. JJ, who carries the faith of Clear Love with him, shows absolute ruthlessness in the jungle. Without him, EDG would shine far less brightly. He will be king of the jungle.
And really get into the nitty-gritty. Yes! A kick play! Solar Flare into the back line as well. EDG has found a pick on top of Cryan.
EDG's Viper, the striking Viper, the world champion, the latter of which is the same as FPX's LWX. This type of competition is thrilling, and there is no doubt that Viper is oh so excited. No matter what happens, both of these championship ADs will do everything they can to become miracle makers.
ADG! And 369 sets it up, but actually couldn't do the damage. And now ADG are back in! Scout is doing it, LPT spinning around, but he can't quite finish the kills off. The curtain call comes through. How the hell did EDG win that?
this match between world champions cannot be understated. One looking to solidify their place as king of the LPL, the other looking to have a fiery resurgence into the season. The fate of this meeting will be path-altering for both of these teams, and when these two titans go at it, the world watches. Our match of the week, FPX versus EDG.